Hey everyone, welcome to the 12 Response Show. I'm Sarah Guernelli. This week, our guest is Paula Fleming from the Better Business Bureau. Paula, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Let's talk about the top scams of 2025 since that year has come to a close. What was the BBB seeing?
Sure. Well, scammers are becoming faster and more personal and more convincing in 2025. And the first and foremost of the topping the scams are imposter scams. And what I mean by that are government scammers pretending they are government agencies, banks, or credible, reliable businesses. So imposter scams remain the number one category reported to the Better Business Bureau in 2025.
And how do these scammers pull that off? What makes this seem so legitimate?
So we've heard specifically here in New England that scammers are pretending to be the IRS, Social Security Administration, your bank institution, or utilities. So those are the names of businesses or organizations that are going to instill a sense of urgency for you to act. And they're contacting often via text or phone, claiming urgent problems like frozen accounts and missed payments. And victims are often driven by emotion and they act immediately. And unfortunately, because they're fearful of facing penalties or being shut off of your heat or your oil, they act. And we're encouraging people to please take a step back. Don't respond to an unsolicited text. If it's via phone, hang up, go to look at your recent bill or go online and call the legitimate number. This will help you and protect you in the long run.
We just aired a story yesterday. A man fell victim to one of these imposter scams. Someone was pretending to be his bank. So he initially gets a text message saying, "Did you initiate this transfer of $1,000?" He responded no to the text message. And then that set off the scammer giving him a call directly. Will you talk about how important it is? I know you did just mention not to respond to texts from people that you don't know or numbers that you don't know.
Yeah. So it is extremely important, but I want to clarify that even legitimate credit card companies, for instance, will send you a text. So not all of them are scams. The problem here is it's very difficult to differentiate who is a scammer versus who is the legitimate business. So if it comes in unsolicited, I encourage people to take it offline and call, whether it's your Chase credit card or your bank in this gentleman's situation, and have a conversation with someone who you know is on the other end that is legitimate and that is representing that organization and or business. In this case, the bank.
Are there any clues that you can look for when you receive one of these texts? We've talked about spelling errors. Is it the number that it comes in as that you might be like, huh, this doesn't feel right?
So I would say for email, you want to look at the email address. For same for the URL, look for spelling errors within a URL, or if there's a few words or letters off, that's a red flag as well. If it's a text or phone call, it's you want to again just take it off that offline or an email. So just making sure that you're acting proactively rather than reactively. That's the safest bet for you. I want to be clear because I've said this before and people are like, well, I did have a unfortunate situation where my child was using my credit card and was trying to Venmo a friend. They received a text, they responded no, and the credit card company was a legitimate, they were trying to protect the customer. So I think communication with whoever holds the account and making sure that you're going directly to the provider is important.
Now, what if one of these scammers calls you directly? That was the case for this man. He replied, no, he didn't initiate a transfer. The scammer knew his
Right.
number was active, gave him a call, and then pulled off the whole ruse. He said it sounded so convincing. He thought it was his bank, but also there was a few things that maybe like just felt a little off to him. Uh,
Yeah.
how real do these scammers make it feel when they are calling you on the phone?
Yeah, they make it seem extremely real. A few things though, if you try to ask questions, they will not have the answers. If you try and push back a little bit, oftentimes they will get aggressive, which is a huge red flag. We've had people that have used profanities. Again, huge red flag. So if they're instilling fear, if they're pressuring you to act immediately, if they're acting in any way unprofessional, those are all red flags for you to be cautious on who you're dealing with. And it, they're not going to have a problem if it's a legitimate business of you hanging up and calling back the legitimate number. I'm not comfortable giving out any information. I'm going to take time, do some research, and give you a call back. They should respect that if they're a legitimate business and or organization.
Hmm. You had just mentioned that if you ask the scammer a question, they might not have the answer. Do you
Yes.
have any tips on what questions could be good for someone to ask to realize, oh, this person is not real? Should they be
Yeah,
asking for your full account number?
yeah, absolutely. So oftentimes they will inquire, asking you questions, your address, your social security number, bank routing number, all things that, either they do not need for the problem at hand or that they as the institution should already have. So if they're pressuring you into giving all that information, I would be very cautious. And so you could ask them, you know, can you how to prove that they're legitimate, where do I do my banking out of, for example, in this case, where are you headquartered? Oftentimes they don't know the answer to the simple questions. I do find that we've had people that realize they are getting scammed and for fun go back and forth on text and or phone call. I don't suggest doing that. A, it's a waste of your time, and B, they're just going to continue to harass you. So I would err on the side of caution when doing that.
Yeah, I have some friends who really enjoy
Yes.
doing that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you would recommend ask very specific questions about the fake entity that they're calling about, whether it's a bank or a business.
Yeah, just
Just
clarifying questions.
hmm
Absolutely. You have a right to do that. So if they're claiming that you owe on your taxes and they claim to be the IRS, you have every right to ask them questions. And also, they're not going to text you. So it's doing a little bit of research, asking the questions, and reserving the right to call back and to handle the situation after you educate yourself a little bit.
Now, thinking of 2025, is there a certain age demographic that was more susceptible to scams than others?
Yeah, so I think it's important that when I started at Better Business Bureau 20 plus years ago, everyone would talk about seniors being scammed, and that seniors are the number one audience or demographic that are most likely to get scammed. And what we've seen through our research, and we have bbb.org/scam tracker, it's our scam tracker, is that oftentimes it's 18 to 24-year-olds that are scammed. And there's many reasons for this. One, that they are often online, they are conducting a lot of business online. Another is that they are not yet, they are savvy in many areas, sometimes more so than myself, but not as savvy on what to look out for the scammers, because we've heard, well, it looked legitimate or it was identical to the real business that they were trying to purchase a name brand hoodie from. And they're often on different platforms and comfortable using them. So social media platforms, that we may be more hesitant, and we take the time to do due diligence. So, yeah, 18 to 24, we are seeing an increase of scams targeting that generation.
If there are parents watching this that have 18 to 24-year-olds, hopefully 24-year-olds are watching this show,
Yes.
what advice do you give them when it comes to social media and scams on social platforms?
Right. So I am a mother of two in that age bracket. And I first and foremost say if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you have a hoodie that is typically priced at $120 and you're finding it at $20 via a social media ad, that's a huge red flag. If they're asking for third party payment, Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, I would caution you to not use that route and to use a credit card. Again, they don't realize it's a great way to establish good credit by using a credit card and paying it off immediately at the end of the month. But also, it's a layer of protection in which you can use the credit card if you're unhappy with the product or the service, or you get scammed, and you can dispute the charge through that
Hmm, those are great
area.
tips.
And then communication. Communication is key for parents and children, right? So oftentimes they're like, we won't get scammed. We're too smart for that.
Mm.
And rightfully, they are very smart, I'm sure. However, we are all susceptible to scams, and we can't have enough education and information to protect ourselves, as these scammers are just as savvy, if not more.
Right, you always have to be vigilant.
Absolutely.
All right, let's hit a break right now. But when we come back, we
Okay.
want to hear your actual stories when it comes to people being scammed from the BBB. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
All right, welcome back. Joining us again is Paula Fleming from the Better Business Bureau. Paula, we left off. I wanted to hear some of the stories that you have heard over the past year when it comes to scams.
Yes, so I love this. So, real stories from our BBB scam tracker from 2025. Number one, scammers are using unrealistic deals to lure shoppers. So, once your money is gone, the site disappears. So, we have heard fake retail buy one, get two free site where a consumer lost $160. They ordered multiple products from a website advertising as buy one, get two free deal. So they never received the order or shipping information, and emails went unanswered, and they lost $160. So that's an example of, if it sounds too good to be true, it could possibly be. And that is something we hear over and over. Now, one of the larger amounts lost, it was an employment task scam. So someone responded to an online job opportunity tied to a supposed mentor on WhatsApp and Telegram after being encouraged to invest their own money to complete tasks and earning $12,000. The victim could not withdraw funds and lost nearly $13,000 over 4 months before realizing it was a scam. The key thing here is, if a job requires you to pay to work, it's not an employment opportunity, it's a scam. So I don't want people to feel like they, aren't intelligent enough, but if it's really, number one, if a job requires you to pay to work, it's an employment scam.
Wow. I mean, these scammers just prey on people who are also looking for opportunities, especially when it comes to unemployment or employment. Have you found that in the past year, employment scams were on the rise?
Yes, they are. And specifically over the holidays, they tend to be more prevalent. So, and I'm reading these right from our scam tracker. So these are real, actual victims of scams that have lost funds. So these aren't assumptions; these are actually happening. And they range from $10 being lost all the way up to, we have $120,000 lost for one consumer regarding a fake casino win request. So people are continue to lose money, and these scammers just get more and more savvy as technology gets increases the usage, and then also just we get more comfortable using it and more reliant on using technology for communication and for purchasing.
Will you describe what that fake casino win scam was? I feel like that's probably
Yeah.
the first time I've ever heard of something like that. You won
Yeah.
$1 million and pay us a little bit to get that money back?
So again, I'm reading specifically from Scam Tracker so I can get you accurate information. And it's one of the most dramatic Scam Tracker reports involved an online casino scam. After being told they won $120,000 and only needed to make $100 identity deposit, the victim was repeatedly asked for more money and never saw the winnings. So they are reporting that they lost $120,000. So I think overall, they just get into that gambling, and the fake casino win is, they think they're putting in to get back. The more they're putting in, and unfortunately they've
Hmm.
lost everything. So if someone asks for fees to release winnings, that's a classic payout scam.
Wow. Looking ahead to this year,
Yes.
what do you think the top scams will be? We see that it's shifting between demographics.
Mhm.
The scams that we previously talked about with job applications and banking scams. What do you think for 2026?
So honestly, I feel like in 2026, the biggest threat of scams will be powered by artificial intelligence and impersonation.
Mm.
I think that AI is something that is here to stay. And whether you're talking about an educational aspect of using it in colleges, campuses all around, or for business, or just your day-to-day life on how, the best way to travel from Boston to Hawaii. People are using AI. And I think with that will come more scams. So I foresee that happening more and being reported to BBB Scam Tracker in 2026.
How can scammers use AI to beef up what they're doing?
Yeah, well, I think we've already seen it where they are using AI to dupe people into thinking that a product is not counterfeit, but in fact, it is a counterfeit product, but looks like a real um, name brand purse or name brand sweatshirt. And I just think you have to. I think AI is a tool, and I think when used correctly, it's a great tool. But
Mm.
I think that there's still a lot to learn in regards to it, and I don't know exactly all the scams that are going to happen. But I do know that I can bet money. I won't, but I could, that we are going to see more and more scams in regards to that. I mean, people are creating their own AI tools to use to streamline business processes, but I foresee scammers utilizing AI in many facets to scam people out of not only identity theft but financial fraud.
Do you think it's going to, um, we are able to pick up on red flags
Mhm,
from text messages or emails that feel a little
mhm,
bit fishy to us? Bad spelling, grammar.
mhm.
If you pick up the phone, it just, someone on the other end doesn't sound right. Do you think AI will make it harder for us to pick up those red flags?
I definitely think AI is going to make it more difficult to spot the red flags in regards to scams.
And do you think, like looking for those, text messages, are we going to be shifting what we're looking out for when it comes to like spelling and grammar? Because right now you can put anything in AI, a sentence that, that really doesn't even make sense. If I even wrote it, an AI can spit out something that looks pretty legitimate.
Well, not only that, but you can also just put in a picture. I could take one of you literally now
Mm.
and plug it in, and I can create a whole video just from a picture of you. It looks legitimate, and I would believe what you're saying because you're a credible newswoman. And you could say, well, I didn't say that. I don't believe that, and someone would fall for it, right?
Mm.
Because they're using your credibility and putting whatever it is that they're trying to convey. And it's very difficult to tell in some cases. And if you're very good at using AI, it makes it almost impossible to tell that that's not, factual. So I think, yes, artificial intelligence most definitely is going to change even more so, easy to spot, to emotionally convincing. And it's going to allow scammers to scale trust. It's the most dangerous shift I think we're going to see in my career, to be honest with you. Um, we talked about the grandchild scam, the spouse or the boss scam. Now imagine, now you have AI where they can take my voice right now during this interview and utilize it to scam others. So, it's just we're hearing from victims who swear they've heard their loved ones crying on the phone. And so was that AI? I'm not sure. So
Mm.
there's different levels to this, and I don't think I can even assume, because I think it's going to be so broad, and it's going to be a learning. When I started, we didn't even have Facebook, so
Mm.
there was a level of learning there, and now it's AI, and so fast forward 20 years, can you imagine the scams that are going to arise with this tool?
Right. I mean, there was, some experts I've talked with about scams, and they said a good tip to use is have a code word with a loved one. So you
Hmm.
ask if someone's calling you saying that they're in an emergency, well, give me the code word, and then I'll know know it's real. Are
Um,
there other tips like that that you have for
um,
people to be able to like realize, like, okay, this is actually my family member or my boss on the other end?
I would say pause and verify with a second contact method. I think your
Mm.
safe word for an emergency is brilliant. I know I had one for pickup at school, so I
Mm.
never went with someone unless they used that word. I think seeing a familiar face on screen is no longer proof of authenticity. We talked about that. So, you know, I think that it's based on what type of scam is happening. So AI removes human limitations. So scams feel more personal and not mass produced. So it's going to make it really difficult to, and I feel like it's just weaponizing trust, and I'm fearful to see what's going to happen. And I think that um, by keeping the communication open and working with AI experts and making sure that we can try and work together to educate people on what to look for as it comes up and arises will be helpful. And I love that idea of that you had said to combat the boss scam and the grandparent scam using a keyword could potentially help.
It's definitely something I've thought about, being on TV. You yourself, you do a lot of interviews. Your voice is out there, and it takes about 30 seconds for them to clone just your
Right. Yeah.
voice alone, which is really scary. And then you think of romance scams, too, how easy it
Yeah.
might be for them to pull off a romance scam when they get a good AI video of you and you feel like it's so personal. And it might be that celebrity talking to you when it's just a scammer.
And yeah, and before you could trust audio or you could trust video alone, and now you just can't. So,
Hmm.
I mean, they can even take a still picture and turn it into an entire video. Your teeth might look a little bigger and brighter, but everything else looks real. When AI first came to the forefront, I won't say who this star was, but they would say, oh, you could tell she had 6 fingers in that picture. It wasn't really her. And I was just coming, well, now it looks very legitimate. We all have 10
Hmm.
fingers and we all, there might be a slight difference, but unless you're with the person every day, you probably wouldn't pick up on it. So I think slowing down, verifying independently. So calling back. So if it is someone calling in, call back the number not trusting the audio and the visual, never sending money, gift cards, or crypto under pressure. And obviously, if you think you've been a victim of a scam, check out our scam tracker and report it to Scam Tracker.
Great. All right. So when we come back, we're going to go more in depth on how you can report a scam and what you should do to protect yourself. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. So, Paula, what are the best steps that people can take to protect themselves from scams?
Yes. So if you first and foremost report it immediately, if you lost money, you shared personal or financial information, someone pressures you to pay with a gift card, a wire transfer, crypto, or peer to peer apps, make sure that you do report it. Obviously, bbb.org scam tracker is a great resource. I don't want people to not report because they feel embarrassed or the loss is too small. Please report any scam to us. That's how we keep in the loop on what's happening in our area. I think that it's also how we identify new and emerging scam trends. As we're just talking about AI, I think the more information we get, the better we can understand what's happening and hopefully can combat that. Um, BUB is one resource to report a scam. Depending on what the scam is, we may suggest or guide you to other entities. So, for example, if you are a victim of fraud, we may want you to report it to your bank, report it to your credit card. A great thing that many, I hope your viewers are doing, is getting your free credit report that can help to identify if you have been a victim of identity theft or if there is any fraud connected to you. And this time of year is a great time to do that.
Do you think it's important for people to freeze their credit?
Great question.
Hmm.
I would say it would be situational, but no, not necessarily that you have to freeze your credit. But I do know that oftentimes the bank will red flag your account if you've been a victim of fraud on more than one occasion.
Mm.
Um, and that's an extra layer of protection. I know a lot of people get frustrated with two-factor identification, but that's a protective measure too. And making sure that your computers are up to date, and that can help protect you as well. Updating your passwords. The new year is an opportunity for a reset, and I would encourage you from a financial and a personal aspect to do so. Meaning, your credit reports, getting that, taking a really account for all your credit cards, making sure that you have all that information. We had a consumer that called crying, lost her wallet, couldn't even remember the credit cards that she had, and so wasn't sure who to call. And she wasn't sure what information was out there. She was very overwhelmed, and it's hard to guide her if she has no information written down. So you don't necessarily have to write the number down, but at least write the credit cards in your wallet down so you know who to contact with their 800 number.
What should people do if they have lost money to a scammer, and how likely is it that they could get that money back?
Well, this is why I say always use a credit card, right? So if you've lost money to a scammer using a third party app, it's nearly impossible to recoup those funds. If you have lost it using a credit card, then you can dispute the charge. I always say this, while I'm not a fan of building up debt, I am a fan of the credit card option for purchases and not the third party apps if you're unsure of who you're dealing with. So while it's great to use those in certain situations, I'd be cautious, especially with large ticket items, TVs, um, computers, cell phones, that type of thing.
Hmm. What other entities should people be reporting their scams to, even if, like you had mentioned earlier, you didn't lose any money, but you think you've
Yeah.
almost fallen victim to a scam?
Yeah, so you can. So the other option is at the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. At times, I have guided people to report it to the local police department. So time matters. The faster you report it, the better chance of limiting the damage to you personally or financially. So it's again dependent on what type of scam you are a victim of. So at times we will recommend that you go to the police department if you've been scammed out of money. If you are a victim, we've heard of this recently where you have met someone and you got unfortunately, a counterfeit product during the holidays. Some people were going that route where they were using Facebook Marketplace meeting. It looked real. The driver drives off with the cash. They are left with a counterfeit product. Well, it is a scam, but we would recommend you go to the police department for that.
Now, as we wrap up, what is the one piece of advice you think people should walk away from this? We covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. Well, scammers count on people staying quiet. Reporting a scam to us helps turn a bad experience, hopefully, into a warning that protects your neighbors, your community, your family members, your friends. So please don't be shy. Report the scam. Don't be embarrassed. Definitely, it's important to report a scam. And we at the Better Business Bureau want to protect consumers and help guide them to do business with ethical businesses, of which we have thousands of. So doing your due diligence up front can really help save your time and money in the long run.
All right, Paul. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Yes,
12 Response Show. We really appreciate it. We'll see
thank
you all
you.
next time.